Hello everybody and welcome back to Roll-A-Nish. My name is Matt and in today's video we are going to talk about the Battle Master and Eldritch Knight martial archetypes, which are the subclasses for the fighter class. Now if you haven't done so already, check out our Intro to Fighter and Champion Martial Archetype video. That is right here in our YouTube channel, and that's going to tell you all the things that all fighters get, including the standard set of features that you would get as a champion martial archetype. So just to recap a little bit, the martial archetype is the subclass option that fighters get to choose when they advance to level 3. So starting at 3rd level, you have an option in your player's handbook to become a champion, a battle master, or an Eldritch Knight. Now these subclasses for the fighter class are going to provide you a few more special features or special moves or options to help you really customize your fighter in your D&D campaign. So this video we're going to focus on the other two, starting with the Battle Master. Now the Battle Master, when crafting your backstory, might be somebody that views combat as almost like an academic, right? They are studiers of war and they view fighting as like an art, almost like a weaponsmith or a calligrapher would describe what they do as an art. So with that comes your first option at 3rd level in the Battle Master Martial Archetype, and that is Combat Superiority. Now, your moves are going to be fueled by something called Superiority Dice. They are actual dice that you can roll, but these are almost like a point system that you can use for different maneuvers. As you level up and grow, your fighter can learn different special moves that they can do that do things other than just damage your opponent. And that's where the maneuvers comes in. So when you take this martial archetype at level 3, you get to learn 3 maneuvers of your choice. Now, you'll get 2 additional maneuvers of your choice when you reach 7th level, again at 10th level, and again at 15th level. So again, that's once you choose this martial archetype at level 3, you get 3 moves, 2 more at 7, 2 more at 10, 2 more at 15. Very, very cool. Very, the moves do different things and we'll dive into those, but those are all going to be highlighted in just a moment. You have, and this is starting at 3rd level, 4 superiority die, and they are going to be the D8. That's going to be this dice that looks like, kind of like, depending on how you're looking at it, it might be diamond shaped or square shaped if you're looking at it from the top down. This is your 8-sided die. You're going to get 4 of these at level 3. So you have 4 special moves that you can do fueled by what you roll, and we'll dive into that in a second. Don't worry, because these 4 become 5 at level 7, and you'll get 6 at level 15. So you start with 4, you'll end somewhere around 6 as long as you reach level 15, and that gives you opportunities to use your special moves. Some of your moves might require your target to make a saving throw to avoid the effect. That is your opponent, or as your dungeon master, my bad guys. And I'm going to have to roll my D20 and add my saving throw modifier, and I have to beat your difficulty class. And your player's handbook describes your difficulty class total as being 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier, your choice. And so again, if you think back on our prior video, Intro to Fighter and Champion Martial Archetype, we talked about how you could build your fighter either strength-based or dexterity-based. And you might be looking at this video and go, oh, what's the difference again? Well, it basically comes down to the weapons. Some weapons are going to require you to use your strength. like certain swords or great axes, things that need to be held in two hands, it's going to take your strength to swing them. While other weapons are going to be more versatile, more finesse weapons. You can hold them in one hand so you can keep a hand free to maybe cast spells as an Eldritch Knight or hold a shield, like a rapier or a scimitar. You know, the thinner bladed swords that you can swing with ease. Okay. So your difficulty class, what I would have to roll to avoid an effect as a saving throw would be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier. So let's say your proficiency bonus is a +3. 8 plus 3 is 11. And maybe your strength or dex modifier is another +3, or maybe it's a +4. Let's go at +4 for this argument. That's +4. So 8 plus 3, 11. 11 plus 4, 15. I would have to roll a 15 or higher to avoid the maneuver that you're trying to put effect on me. So even at lower levels, it's a pretty high roll that I would need to get to avoid your maneuver, and that's good. And that's what makes fighters often successful. So we're going to get into what your special moves are, but just know at 3rd level, when choosing the Battle Master Martial Archetype, everything you do, again, is fueled by the superiority die, which is the D8. Some of your maneuvers, based on what you choose and what you decide to use, may require me as your dungeon master to roll a saving throw with my D20. And I have to beat 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier, however you built your character. Okay? The other feature you get at 3rd level is called Student of War. You gain proficiency with one type of artisan's tools of your choice. Pretty cool. So if you want to become a smith and make your own weapons as a fighter, that's a skill that you can learn at 3rd level. So you could choose some of those tools to be proficient with, so you can do those things in your downtime. At 7th level, you get a feature called Know Your Enemy. And if you spend at least a minute observing or interacting with other creatures outside of combat, you can learn certain information about its capabilities compared to your own. So perhaps you crest a ridge and you and your party are looking downhill and you see a owlbear lurking around. You, as a fighter, could take a minute to study that owlbear. And while you call that out and you do that, your dungeon master should be able to tell you if the creature is your equal, superior, or inferior to you in 2 of the following characteristics of your choice. So you could say, Matt, what is that owlbear's armor class? That would be one of the things I could give up based on you studying it. And you could say, okay, based on what I see of this owlbear, how healthy does it look? I would then be required to give you its hit points. If you want to know its strength or dex or constitution score, you can. Its level, if it's a humanoid that looks like they can fight or cast spells, what level are they? If they look like another fighter like you, I could give you that information. So any 2 of these information, if you use your Know Your Enemy feature, I got to give them to you. So this is a great way to figure out what you're getting involved in by studying your enemy or your potential opponent. Should your party be thinking about making an attack on something, you could be like, hold on, let me see what I can find out by just observing its behavior. That's a good way to roleplay that. Okay, at 10th level, you get something called Improved Combat Superiority. So you know that your maneuvers are fueled by a D8. However, at 10th level, this D8 becomes a D10. And the D10 looks like this. Okay, it's another diamond-shaped looking one, similar to the D8, but rounded. So when you look at it head on or top down, one looks like a square and the other one looks like a circle. This has 10 sides. You would roll this instead starting at 10th level. Because as you increase in level, your character is increasing his skill. So shouldn't they be a little bit better? Shouldn't they learn more? They do. And in fact, When you turned 18th level, your D10 superiority die turns into a D12. So much higher numbers for you, higher probability of your success as a fighter. So as you level up and you learn more things, your output has the potential to also increase. Very cool stuff. At 15th level, you get a feature called Relentless. When you roll initiative to start an encounter, right? Our turn order, initiative, and you have no superiority die left because maybe you used it in a previous encounter or fight, you are out of superiority die. If you've got to roll initiative for a new encounter and you have no superiority die left, you automatically get 1 superiority die. That starts at 15th level, and by then, you are at a D10. So you get a D10 superiority die just for entering a new encounter if you're down to 0. It doesn't replenish anything you've used, so if you're like, oh, what if I only have two left? Can I still get one? No. When you are at 0 superiority die and you roll initiative for a new encounter, you get 1 superiority die to use. Okay, that's called Relentless. So that's what you get as a battle master, but I want to talk to you about the maneuvers, because remember, at 3rd level, when you choose this archetype, you get to pick 3 maneuvers of your choice. And remember, you get to pick 2 more at 7th, 2 more at 10th, and 2 more at 15th. So let's take a look at some of those maneuvers. First, you have Commander Strike. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks and use a bonus action to command one of your teammates to attack instead. So maybe you have extra attack, and on your first attack, you kill something you're engaged with. And the next closest enemy is maybe 25 feet away from you, and you're too far away, but you've got an opponent within 5 feet, within striking distance. Well, rather than using that extra attack yourself, you can say, I'm going to use a superiority die, and I want you to attack him since you're right there. And they got to do that right now. So it's basically, I love doing this, setting up another fighter to attack, or a barbarian if you have one in the party, because they also will deal a lot of damage. So using that and realizing I might be too far away to hit this thing with my sword, and maybe I don't want to use my bow or my crossbow. Instead, I'm going to use my Commander Strike. Yo, barbarian, you get him. That's a good use of that. So think about that, because that could be advantageous to you to consider using Commanding Strike. So when you do that, your friendly creature, your teammate, as long as they can see or hear you, they can immediately use their reaction to make that attack. And they're going to take your superiority die and add it to the roll. So if they roll to attack and they hit, they could take that superiority die that you spent, whether it's a D8, depending on what level you're at, or the D10 or the D12. If they hit on that Commander Strike bonus attack, they could take that superiority die that you spent and they can roll it and add the damage. I just rolled a D8 and added 7 damage to that. 7 damage is decent. That's Commander Strike. Disarming attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a superiority die to attempt to disarm the target, forcing it to drop an item of your choice that it is holding. So if you've got somebody holding a shield and a weapon, knock the shield out of their hand. It's going to lower their AC by 2 points. Right? So, you can knock their weapon out of their hand, but if they're holding a shield, knock the shield out of their hand, especially if their turn's not coming up for a while, because you just drop their AC and all your friends can gang up on it. Right? That makes it so worthwhile doing. So again, you add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll. So whatever superiority die, whether you're at an 8, depending on your level, or a 10 or a 12, you're not just spending that point to do the maneuver, you're adding your roll to that damage. So it's just extra damage, right? Spend that superiority die to add that extra damage. On top of that, they need to make a strength saving throw. Now remember, they have to beat your difficulty class, 8, plus your proficiency bonus, plus your strength or dex modifier. Whatever that total is, they have to meet it or beat it. If they fail that throw, they're going to drop that object you chose. So if you're like, all right, I want to attack him and I want to try and knock the shield out of his hand with a disarming strike. Okay, you're going to roll to hit. Let's say I hit. I'm going to roll my damage for my weapon plus my superiority die on top of that. And now I tell you the damage. And if my enemy is still standing, at this point, they need to make that strength saving throw. And if they fail, they drop that item you chose. If they pass that saving throw, then they don't drop anything. It's kind of like I would describe it like, oh, you try to disarm him, but he's just a little bit too strong for you. You could feel the resistance, and he holds on to that shield. Darn. That's how disarming attack works. You have an attack called distracting attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a superiority die to distract them, giving your allies an opening. You add the superiority die to your attack's damage roll. So again, that superiority die isn't just like a point system. You're adding that damage. The next attack roll against that target by an attacker other than you, so one of your teammates, it will have advantage because you are the distraction that allows them to get advantage. Does that make sense? So if you really want to buff your teammates, right? This is your opportunity as a fighter to help the party. By being that distraction, all you're really doing is making an attack roll, adding the superiority die to your damage, and now your teammates are set up. The next attack against that opponent will have advantage. Not all of the attacks against that opponent, just the first person who attacks next will get advantage because your enemy is distracted by you. Another move is called evasive footwork. When you move, you can spend one superiority die, rolling the die and adding the number to your rolled to your AC until you stop moving. Okay, so let's say I'm at a D8. Maybe my superiority die is at a D8. I just rolled a 4. If my armor class is 16, I rolled a 4. My armor class is 20 until I stop moving. So if I want to weave through a way where there are a lot of enemies that might get opportunity attacks on me, I have a better chance at deflecting those blows and not taking that damage to get to wherever I'm trying to go. Maybe the big bad guy, maybe to a switch that operates something that could, release an area of effect. Maybe I'm trying to rescue a teammate. That would be a great use of evasive footwork. The next maneuver you could choose from is called feinting attack. You spend one superiority die and use a bonus action on your turn to feint. Not faint, but like fake. Choosing one creature within 5 feet of you as the target. You have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature this turn. If that attack hits, you add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll. So it's kind of like a fake to see if they put up their defenses. And now, since you faked and you see that their defenses are up, this is all role play, by the way, that explains how you get advantage on that. It's kind of like when quarterbacks do a pump fake. They pretend to throw the ball to see if the defense will move, and then they throw the ball. I know that's a sports term for some of you who are not into sports. Sorry. But that's a good way to explain that. Goading attack is an option. This is one of my favorites. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend one superiority die to attempt to goad the target into attacking you. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you until the end of your turn. So let's say you and your party members are surrounding or nearly surrounding an enemy, and you're going to attack it because it's your turn. Maybe your enemy is up next. If you goad it, you're basically like forcing it to attack you. So maybe one of your teammates that are near it are really low on health. That would be helpful for you to goad him into attacking you because you're a fighter. You probably have a higher AC and a higher hit point pool. You could probably take the blow better than the sorcerer who's nearby, right? So that's a way that you can to do that, and I really like that a lot, especially because I tend to make fighters that are beefy and can take a hit. But that is something that you can do. There's another move called lunging attack. When you make a melee weapon attack on your turn, you can expend one superiority die to increase your reach for that attack by 5 feet. If you hit, you add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll. So a lot of your weapons as a fighter are going to have a 5-foot range, right? That is melee combat range. Some weapons have a longer reach, like I think a pike or a lance has a 10-foot reach because it's a long pole. Well, maybe you don't want to pull out a huge pole to do that. Maybe you want to use your sword, but your enemy's 10 feet away and you're like, ugh, but I really want to hit him with my sword and I don't have movement left. Okay. Do a lunging attack. So in roleplay, we can explain that you reach him because you lunge forward to stab, right? But that's just you expending your superiority die. And if you roll a hit and you hit, you get to add that to the damage like you've been doing. So it just extends your reach a little bit. There is maneuvering attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to maneuver one of your comrades into a more advantageous position. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and you choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you. That creature can use their reaction, if they haven't used it already, to move up half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks from the target of your attack. Not from everybody, from the target of your attack. So if you want a teammate to move out of that person's way, maybe it's a big scary monster and you are ill prepared for this combat, you can do a maneuvering attack. Allow your teammate to move half their speed without getting whacked by an opportunity attack. And then, of course, if you hit, you're adding that superiority die roll to your damage output. Let's take a look at menacing attack. There are so many, guys. So bear with me. Menacing attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to frighten the target. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, they're going to be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. And as a reminder, frightened, when a creature is frightened, typically cannot move any closer to you than where it is. In fact, it usually has to stay at least 30 feet away from you. So you scare it into moving away. And because it's frightened and it has to move away, if there are people within melee range, it's going to provoke opportunity attacks as it runs away from you. So that is a good method, especially if you've got a lot of teammates close to your enemy to do that kind of attack. Next, we have parry. When another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to I dropped dice. When another creature I don't even know what I was doing. Okay, parry. When another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction and spend 1 superiority die to reduce the damage by what you rolled plus your dexterity modifier. And the reason it's dexterity modifier, it's because it's like, oh, I'm parrying the blow, I'm knocking it away with my weapon, or I'm moving out of the way while doing that, so it requires your movement. Dexterity. So maybe my superiority die is a d8, and I'm getting hit. I rolled a 5. I can reduce the damage by 5 plus my dex modifier. If my dex modifier is a 3, 5 and 3 is 8. That's a lot of damage I'm reducing, so I'm taking less. So this will help you with defense. Next, you have the precision attack. When you make a weapon attack roll against a creature, you can expend 1 superiority die to add it to the roll. You can use this maneuver before or after making the attack roll, but before any effects of the attack are applied. So this precision attack isn't adding your superiority die to the damage. It's adding the superiority die to your d20 roll to hit. Now, when you're attacking, you roll your d20, you add your weapon bonus. If you're attacking something strong with a higher armor class, you might want to say, precision attack, I want to make sure I hit this thing. I rolled an 8 on my d8, so I get to add that to my roll. So odds are I'm hitting this thing. In fact, just for argument's sake, I rolled a 17 on the die on my d20. Let's say my weapon modifier is a +7. That's 24 plus the 8. 24 plus 8 is 32. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I hit whatever it is that we're fighting. That's just precision attack, and that's going to help you make sure you hit. So if you're having a tough time and your party's having a tough time fighting something with a strong armor class, precision attack might be the way to go. You also have pushing attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to drive the target back. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and if the target is large or smaller, because every creature has a size, if it is large or smaller, it must make a strength saving throw. If it fails, you push the target up to 15 feet away from you. So if you're fighting on a rooftop or a bridge and the edge of that rooftop or bridge is less than 15 feet away, you could reasonably say that your pushing attack could push them right off that cliff or bridge or roof. That is a good example of a pushing attack. Or maybe there's a pit behind it, like an acid pit or something. Use your environment to your advantage with this pushing attack. Okay, we're almost there. Hang in there. Rally. On your turn, you can use a bonus action and expend 1 superiority die to bolster the resolve of your companions. When you do so, choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you. This creature gains temporary hit points equal to the superiority die roll plus your charisma modifier. So maybe you've got a teammate that is not doing so great on health. I'm looking at you, wizard and sorcerer. Oh, mages, I love you. Maybe you're like, oh no, I'm not a healer, but because I have rally ready to go, I'm going to rally my teammate. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll my superiority die. I roll a 4. Maybe my charisma modifier is a +2. 4 and 2 is 6. I can heal them 6 points, or if they're fully healed, I can give them 6 temporary hit points. So it's a good way to heal or provide a little cushion of health to your teammates. Riposte. Riposte? When a creature misses you with an attack, you can use your reaction to expend 1 superiority die to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. If you hit, you add the superiority die to your damage roll. So sweet. Me as your DM, I'm attacking you. I missed. You're going to be like, ha ha ha. You can use your reaction to attack me with that superiority die. Next, we have sweeping attack. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to damage another creature with the same attack. Choose another creature within 5 feet of the original target and within your reach. If the original attack roll would have hit the second creature, meaning your roll to hit meets or beats their armor class, it is going to take damage equal to the number you roll on your superiority die. The damage is the same type dealt by the original attack. So if you've got a sword in your hand and it's slashing, and you attack for a total of, let's say, 15 damage to your first target, let's say of that 15 damage, 5 of it was from your superiority die, the creature next to it will take 5 damage from your superiority die. Not the whole thing that you did to your first target, because you got to think like, oh, well, that's in the way of the second target, so the second target would take less. That's why it's not the full damage, and it's just whatever's on the superiority die. In my example, I said 5, so they would take 5. That's pretty cool. That kind of mimics the cleaving through rule that the Dungeon Master's Guide has, which is a pretty cool feature. Ask your DM if you are cleaving through, because that could potentially stack here if you're reducing your first target to 0. But more on that on another time. Last but not least, we have the trip attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to knock the creature down. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and if the target is large or smaller, it must make a strength saving throw. If it fails, you knock it prone, right? So you knock it down. Why that's important is because a prone creature has disadvantage when attacking while prone, and those attacking it have advantage while it's prone, unless you are range attacking it because it's a smaller target now. Does that make sense? So it's a good way, especially if you've got melee attackers in the area, to knock it prone, to allow them to get advantage to finish that creature off. That is the trip attack. So as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 options. They're not all available to you because remember, when you choose Battle Master at 3rd level, you get 3. You get to choose 3. When you level up at 10th, you get 2 more for a total of 5 at 7th level. At 10th, you get 2 more for a total of 7. At 15th level, you get 2 more for a total of 9. You have 16 options. And once you choose them, those are your choices. So pick your favorite ones, try and determine which maneuver you want to take at certain level ups, and as you get stronger, your character gets stronger. So it seems like a lot, only because there were a lot of options, but when you really think about it, at 3rd level, you're picking 3 of those things. Those are 3 special moves, and by the time you're ready to do and pick 2 more at level 7, between levels 3 and level 7, that is plenty of adventuring to get yourself used to the mechanics. Don't think too far ahead, but don't let it overwhelm you. You've got options, and your book tells you exactly what these things do. When you choose them, they show up on your character sheet, and it's right on your sheet. You could be looking at it when it's not your turn and helping yourself figure out what you want to do. Okay, now let's talk about the other subclass, the other martial archetype, Eldritch Knight. The Eldritch Knight is going to be a fighter who is integrating careful use of magic into their combat. The magic techniques are going to be similar to those used by wizards. So that's pretty much a brief subset of spells you'll choose from in this class. And this Eldritch Knight spellcasting table tells you when you choose this archetype at level 3, you get to use 2 cantrips, and you get to know 3 spells, and you get 2 first level spell slots. Now, there's a difference between spell levels and character levels, okay? Just because you're a level 3 fighter does not mean you can cast spells up to 3rd level. They're different systems. So of the 3 spells that you can cast 2 of them because you have 2 spots. They're called spell slots. It's like a point system. You can only use 2. When you get to 4th level, you get to learn an extra spell and you get an extra slot. And it will stay at that numbering system until you reach 7th level, where you learn a 5th spell and can use a 4th. But you also increase in the spell's level. So the higher level the spell, the more powerful the spell is. So if it's like a spell that is evocation magic, right? Like I'm going to create a fireball and throw it. I'm going to shoot lightning out of my finger. You're evoking that damage. You're evoking those elements. Those are higher level spells. So as you get to higher levels of spell, the more damage you can do, the more creatures you could potentially affect. It's very cool. So as you see, by moving up the moving down this table, when you get to 13th level, you know 9 different spells and you can cast 9 of them. 4 can be at the 1st level variety, 3 at 2nd level, 2 at 3rd level. You can upcast spells. So you could take a 1st level spell and cast it at 2nd level. It gives you extra damage dice. Those spells, they'll tell you right in the description of the spell, hey, if you cast this at a higher level, you get to add this many more dice for damage. It works casting up. You cannot cast down. You can't take a 3rd level spell and cast it at 1st level. You can't weaken your spells. You can only strengthen them. But as you can see, as you level up, you have more cantrips to use. You can learn more spells, and then you can use higher levels. When you're at 19th and 20th level, you get access to 4th level spells, and some of them are going to be pretty strong. So the fact that you're able to wear armor and use your weapons consistently, you can use some spells. The spells that you'll have access to are going to be pretty decent in terms of damage. Probably the better spells come at using 3rd level spells. So that's at 13th level. That's like the key. Get there and you'll be able to really do some damage as an Eldritch Knight. That's pretty cool. So in your book, when it talks about spell casting, cantrips, spell slots, spells known of 1st level or higher, I just explained all of that. That talks about the table. What you use to cast spells is going to be intelligence, because the spells that an Eldritch Knight uses follow the wizard schools of magic, and wizards use intelligence to cast their spells because they have to learn them from a book and then use them. So they use their intelligence. So as an Eldritch Knight fighter, not only do you want to consider either strength or dexterity to be a good weapon user, you want to make sure your intelligence score is high. So instead of focusing on dexterity or constitution, you might want to go strength, intelligence, or dexterity, intelligence, because those are your primary damage outputs. You don't have to do that. It's just a recommendation. Your spell save DC, sometimes when you cast a spell that is an area of effect and not targeting a person or creature, but an area, they get to make a saving throw to avoid some of that damage. Your difficulty class for that, kind of like how your difficulty class in your maneuver attacks, is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. So again, the higher this is, the harder it is for them to avoid or make that saving throw, the better off you're going to do damage. Some spells that target an individual won't use an area of effect to allow them to dive out of the way. That means you have to use a spell attack modifier. So look, much like your weapons have a bonus that you add to your roll to hit, certain spells have a bonus that you will add to your roll to hit, because your spell is a weapon. And that bonus is going to be your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. So again, the higher this is, the more your bonus is going to be, the likelier you are to hit that enemy. Okay, so spell casting is the first thing you get at 3rd level when you choose Eldritch Knight. The second thing you get at 3rd level is called Weapon Bond. You learn a ritual that creates a magic bond between yourself and one weapon. You perform the ritual over the course of an hour, which can be done during a short rest. Maybe you make it part of your morning routine. That weapon must be within your reach throughout the ritual, at the conclusion of which you touch the weapon to forge your bond. That's all roleplay. Once you have bonded a weapon to yourself, you can't be disarmed of that weapon unless you are knocked out, okay, incapacitated. So even if I have a bad guy fighter and he tries to do the disarming attack, I'm going to not be able to disarm you no matter what I do, because you've got a weapon bond, and that weapon is essentially magically sealed in your hand. Beautiful. If it is on the same plane as the existence of you, you can summon that weapon as a bonus action on your turn, causing it to teleport instantly to your hand. So maybe you have to drop the weapon for some reason. Not because you were disarmed. Maybe you place it with something else and now it's over there. You're like, oh crap, I need my sword. You can teleport it to your hand, right? That's cool if you have something that can be thrown like a hand axe or a boomerang, because you can throw that hand axe and then use your bonus action to return it to your hand like Thor. I mean, come on. That's awesome. You can have up to 2 bonded weapons, but can only summon 1 at a time with your bonus action. If you attempt to bond a 3rd weapon, you must break a bond with one of the other 2. So you could be doing that during your short rest. You know what? I don't want to use my sword. I want to use my great axe. Let me bond that. Okay, take a short rest. Make sure you have an hour to make that new bond. And now you've got 2. If you want a 3rd, you're going to have to tell your DM, I'm dropping it on my sword to put it on my whatever. At 7th level, you get a feature called War Magic. When you use your action to cast a cantrip, and for spell casting purposes, we talked about leveled spells. You have a certain amount that you can use. They're called spell slots. Cantrips are like 0 level spells. They don't take a spell slot. You can do them at will. You just have to follow the action economy. Like if it takes an action to cast this cantrip, great. If it takes a bonus action to cast this cantrip, great. Just follow that mechanics and you'll be fine. You don't have to burn your spell slots. But War Magic, if you use your action to cast a cantrip spell, you can use a bonus action to make a weapon attack. You just make sure you have a weapon in your hand. At 10th level, you get something called Eldritch Strike. You learn how to make your weapon strikes undercut a creature's resistance to your spell. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, that creature has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes against a spell you cast before the end of your own turn. So, when you have, this is something you get at 10th level. So as a fighter, at 5th level, you get extra attack. So what you should be doing is your first attack, hit it with your weapon as an Eldritch Strike. Because if you hit, they have disadvantage on the next saving throw. My second attack, I'm going to cast a spell that requires them to make a saving throw because they'll have disadvantage. And the likelihood of me hitting on that second attack is increased. And that's how you can stack that. I want to hit with my weapon and hit with my spell. That's what you do. Eldritch Strike, baby. All right, level 15, you get Arcane Charge. You gain the ability to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see when you use your Action Surge. So remember, Action Surge is a bonus action. You use it to get another action. Right? You heard that right. My Action Surge is a bonus action. I spend that, which allows me to take another action. That's Action Surge. You get that at level 2 as a fighter. All fighters have Action Surge. This is saying at 15th level, when you use your Action Surge, you can immediately teleport up to 30 feet away. And you can do it before or after that turn, that extra action of the Action Surge. So you could be like, all right, I'm going to Action Surge, but first I'm going to use my Arcane Charge to teleport over here. And with that Action Surge, I'm going to attack this guy 2 times. You can do that. Does that make sense? Lastly, at 18th level, you get Improved War Magic. You use your action to cast a spell. You can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. So this is different than War Magic, right? At 7th level, when you cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack with a bonus action. With Improved War Magic, when you cast a spell, a leveled spell, not a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. So that, my friends, is the Battle Master and the Eldritch Knight. Eldritch Knight's going to use some spell casting. So if you want to pick a fighter and it's your very first character, fighter's always a good one because it's a good way to introduce yourself to the mechanics of the game. And as you play in your campaign for a while and you begin to level up, by this time you might be like, oh, I want to try some magic, but I don't want it to be too complicated. Great. Pick Eldritch Knight because it's just a little magic while you still get to be the fighter. And if you like that, the next time you play the game, the next campaign, if you want to go full magic user, that's a good gateway into becoming a sorcerer, a warlock, a wizard without overwhelming yourself with all the different spells and what they do. Be a fighter. Be an Eldritch Knight fighter and introduce yourself to magic. It's great. If you're a fighter who really wants to make a character that is really good at combat and has all these great moves, Battle Master's the way to go because your superiority die adds extra damage to your attacks and you get to do other things like set yourself up or your teammates up for success with some of the maneuvers that you've got. And you get a lot of those maneuvers. Out of the 16 options listed, you get 3 at level 3. And 2 more at 7, 2 more at 10, 2 more at 15 for a total of 9 by the time you reach 15th level. Plenty of maneuvers to choose from in your combat. So that, my friends, is the Battle Master and the Eldritch Knight martial archetypes, the subclasses of the fighter class. If you enjoyed that, please like and comment. Let us know about your fighter that you're building or have built. We'd love to hear from you. And next week, we are going to begin talking about the next class in our series, which is going to be the Monk class. So, until then, keep rolling those dice, and we'll see you at the table.